We're heading up very quickly to 7 o'clock. Good to have you with us here on the South African morning. The ANC has ended its coalition agreement in Kannaland in the Western Cape. Now, to remind you, it had partnered with the independent Civic organisation of South Africa. The party was under pressure, though, to distance itself from that party because it was being led by convicted child rapist Jeffrey Donson. We understand now, Sanusha Naidu, good morning to you, political analyst. The ANC is going to occupy opposition benches. You're joining us on the phone this morning. We'll talk about why the ANC is going this route in a moment. We do have to ask the obvious question, though. Why would the independent civic organisation of SA go with a leader that is a convicted child rapist?
Good morning, Garrett, and good morning to your viewers. It's not baffling, but it's also bizarre that in this municipality, I mean, these were two, the individual in question that you are referring to, had a very difficult, if not serious breach of law. And you would wonder where the ethics and the moral value would be when they were selecting the candidate for mayor. And of course, they did win quite well in that municipality, in Kannaland. But at the end of the day, the problem is that I think when you start entering into these uncharted waters and territory when it comes to smaller political parties or civic associations, where you have to now think about who best represents the ethics, the morals, the values. In this situation, I think that it's just about political expediency. It's about getting into politics for all the wrong reasons. And of course, this is not something that aligns with what we call the alignment of coalition partners. And I think the ANC, in so much of context and in so much of its own quagmire and its own kind of self-reflection and the issues that it faces internally, just couldn't stay in that coalition. So they stepped away and they decided there'll be an opposition. But of course, this doesn't mean that it goes away. The question is, do people in that municipality really genuinely believe that despite the ethical question and the fact that you have a child rapist and then there were also two others that were involved in other sexual misconduct and so forth, I mean, do you think that they are the people that you want to lead?
And that's the question that the municipality is going to have to now try and grapple with, because this party was voted in as the opposition party. Now, though, Sanusha, the ANC will be sitting on the opposition benches. What would be their role in this? Obviously, opposition politics, but knowing, and I imagine the reason they walked away from this is because of who's leading the independent civic organisation in that municipality. What's the ANC's role here? Because you mentioned morals and ethics, for example. What does the ANC do in this situation?
Well, I think the first thing for the ANC to start thinking about, in addition to that, is looking at the finances and whether the finances are being dealt with in a clear, transparent, and accountable way. Because that's the other issue that bedevils this municipality as well as the claimed Kuru. But I think the challenge for the ANC is whether or not they would use this as the basis to object to the mayor, object to the fact that there's a serious breach of law here, and particularly in the context of 16 days of activism and our own policies around, the ANC's own policies of gender-based violence. Will they now then say this individual cannot stand? Do they have the strategic influence and leverage to push this individual and say, you need to resign, irrespective of the fact that it's our step-aside rule, but just in terms of this municipality where it's going? Do they constantly look at that and say, do they have the leverage to do that? Or do they use it on the basis to say that we'll keep watching how you run this municipality? Where are some of the dark spaces? What are some of the irregularities that this municipality is going through under your mayoral chain? And therefore use that to push forward for this person to resign. But right now, I think that's the strange question of coalitions, and that's the strange question of small parties, where it seems to me in Kannaland, it's not about the person's ethics integrity. It's about something much bigger around political office, about political access and political resources that people want access to.
Sanusha, last question to you. I can't help but keep coming back to the situation of Jeffrey Donson, a convicted child rapist. The reason I keep wanting to come back to this is because of the 16 days of activism that we're busy observing to stop violence against women and children. I am disturbed that we have someone in any kind of leadership position that is a convicted child rapist. I'm just reading now as well the party saying he's not going to go anywhere. I'm very worried about our state of politics and seemingly the conversation becoming more about what the ANC is going to do in the opposition benches. The issue for me is there's a convicted child rapist leading a political party.
And I think you're quite right. I mean, I completely agree with you. And the question there would be, why did the community feel that they still need to have this individual in terms, not necessarily the community, but the party felt that they still needed to have this individual lead the municipality. Even being a member of the association should never have been. I mean, if we have a sex offender register, and that registry basically says you can't do X, Y, and Z, the point about it is that the political party, the executive of that association, should actually have not enabled him, allowed him to stand in that political party, to be even a member of that political party. This tells me that we take sexual offense, sexual violence, and violence against women and children very lightly in this country, and we need much more stringent and stricter laws, and even have a registry that, I know we kind of spoke about it and the President alluded to it, but we need to implement it much more.
Yeah, absolutely. Sanusha Naidu, thank you very much indeed, Ras. Every year we're going to have this discussion around 16 days of activism. Why is nothing changing? But yet we have situations like this where officers in governments, even whether it be a municipal government, being held by those who've been convicted of situations like this. And I know the conversation was about the ANC, but that's why I'm going to keep coming back to. And I think we need to investigate this further. How was it even allowed to get to a point where it was voted for?
Yeah.
That should have been stopped long before that, is my opinion on this one, considering how bad GBV and child abuse is in this country.
Absolutely.